Welcome to Headstones and Microphones, where we use AI to step into the past through a researched, first-person simulation of history's most interesting people. I am your host, Calvin. While we've added some creative storytelling, our goal is to inspire your own study of these fascinating lives. Now, let's meet our guest. I am absolutely electrified today. We are sitting down with a man who didn't just play a sport, he became the sport. For those who may somehow not know who you are, who are you?
Hello, Calvin. I am Edson Arantes do Nascimento, but the world knows me simply as Pelé. I am a son of Brazil, a lover of the beautiful game, and someone who spent his life trying to bring a little bit of magic to the football pitch.
The king himself. Pelé, let's go back to the very beginning. When and where were you born?
I was born on October 23, 1940, in a small town called Três Corações in the state of Minas Gerais, Brazil. It was a humble beginning, but full of heart.
You mentioned your name is Edson. Was that your given name at birth?
Yes, my parents named me Edson.
Is there a story behind that name?
There is. I was named after the American inventor Thomas Edison. Electricity had just arrived in our town shortly before I was born, and my father was so impressed by this miracle of light that he decided to name me after the man responsible. My family used to call me Dico for short, but somehow the I in Edison got dropped and I became Edson.
That's amazing. Named after the man who lit up the world, and then you went on to light up the stadium. What was your hometown like growing up?
It was a simple place. We moved to Bauru later on, where I spent most of my childhood. We didn't have much money, but we had the streets. The streets were our stadium. Life was about community, family, and finding ways to have fun with very little.
And what was your family life like?
It was very warm and centered around football. My father, Dondinho, was a professional soccer player himself, though a knee injury cut his career short. My mother, Celeste, was the backbone of our home. She was a bit worried about me following in my father's footsteps because she saw how hard the life of a footballer could be, but the love was always there.
So what kind of kid were you on those streets?
I was a dreamer. I was always running, always playing. I was also a bit of a worker. I used to shine shoes at the local train station to help bring home a few extra coins. But the moment I finished my work, I was looking for a ball, or anything that looked like a ball.
Every kid has something that keeps them up at night. What were your biggest fears growing up?
Honestly, Calvin, my biggest fear was letting my parents down. I saw how hard they worked. I also feared that I might never get the chance to help them. And of course, like many Brazilian children, I feared the idea of Brazil losing the World Cup again after the heartbreak of 1950.
That 1950 loss was legendary. Did you dream of becoming a professional player, even as a child?
Always. I remember seeing my father cry when Brazil lost to Uruguay in 1950. I told him, "Don't cry, Papa, I will win the World Cup for you." I was only 9 years old, but in my heart the dream was set.
Talk about calling your shot. What were some of your favorite activities in school?
To be honest, school was a challenge because I only wanted to think about soccer, but I enjoyed being social and playing with my friends. Anything that involved movement and teamwork was where I was happiest.
You mentioned shining shoes, but what was your first official job?
Aside from the shoe shining, I worked in a shoe factory for a short time. I was just a young boy trying to contribute. It taught me the value of hard work and discipline before I ever stepped onto a professional pitch.
Was there a moment where you realized you were different from everyone else? Not just a kid playing in the street, but something special.
It was during the youth tournaments in Bauru. I realized I could see the game a split second faster than the other boys. The ball felt like an extension of my own body. When I joined the Santos FC junior team and started holding my own against grown men at 15, I thought, maybe there is something special happening here.
What's a decision that changed everything for you, but felt small at the time?
Leaving home to go to Santos. I was only 15, my mother was hesitant, and I was just a boy from the interior. It felt like a big trip, but I didn't realize I was leaving my old life behind forever. That one train ride changed the history of my life.
And that led to your biggest break. When did that happen?
The 1958 World Cup in Sweden. I was only 17. I was injured at the start and wasn't sure I would even play. But when I got on the field in the later rounds and scored those goals, especially the one in the final where I flicked the ball over the defender, the whole world suddenly knew my name.
17 and winning a World Cup. But it wasn't all easy, right? What were your biggest struggles before success?
Poverty was the main one. We didn't even have a real soccer ball. We used to stuff a sock with rags and tie it with string. Learning to play with a ball that didn't bounce right actually helped my technique.
Did you ever consider quitting?
Never. There were times when I missed my family terribly, especially when I first moved to Santos. But the game was my life. Quitting was never an option.
You played at such a high level for decades. Were there any specific daily habits or routines that you feel were essential to your success?
I believed in Ginga, the spirit and rhythm of Brazil, but practically I practiced my headers and my left foot constantly. My father taught me that a great player must be complete. I also tried to stay calm and treat everyone with respect. Peace of mind is a great teammate.
If fame never happened, what job would you have had?
I think I might have been a pilot or maybe worked in physical education. I always loved the idea of flight and I always loved teaching others how to stay active.
What was your life like right before the fame hit?
It was very quiet, just training, eating at the clubhouse, and writing letters home. I was just Edson, a kid who was good at soccer.
How did your relationships change after you became a global icon?
It became harder to know who was a friend for Edson and who was a friend for Pelé, but my family stayed the same. They always kept my feet on the ground no matter how high I jumped for a header.
Did fame bring you happiness?
It brought me the opportunity to make millions of people happy, and that made me happy. Seeing a child smile because they met me or saw me score, that is a true blessing.
What was the downside of it all?
The lack of privacy. I couldn't walk down the street in any country in the world without being recognized. Sometimes you just want to be a father or a husband, but the world wants the king.
What misconceptions did people have about you?
Some people thought things came easy to me. They didn't see the thousands of hours of practice or the pain of the injuries I played through. They saw the goal, but not the sweat that went into it.
What was your darkest moment?
The 1966 World Cup. I was targeted and fouled so badly by defenders that I had to be carried off. I was so frustrated and hurt that I declared I would never play in a World Cup again. I felt like the beautiful game had become too violent.
Thankfully, you changed your mind for 1970. What past regrets did you carry that you spoke about?
I always wish I could have been more present for my children during the height of my career. I was traveling the world constantly. It is a sacrifice many athletes make, but it stays with you.
What's something people misunderstood about your life?
People often focus on the goals, but I took just as much pride in my assists. I loved the team aspect of the game. Also, people didn't realize how much I worried about the future of Brazil and the children there.
Tell me about a time when everything went wrong and how you handled it.
During a match in Africa, the crowd was so huge that people were pushing onto the field. It was chaotic and dangerous. I realized then that my presence was more than just sports. It was a responsibility. We stayed calm, played the game, and used the moment to promote peace. In fact, we once stopped a war in Nigeria just so people could watch us play. That is the power of soccer.
That is a legendary story. Did the fame and fortune change your life?
It changed my circumstances, yes. I could provide for my family in ways I never dreamed, but in my heart I remained the boy from Bauru.
Who had the biggest influence on your life?
My father, Dondinho, he was my first coach and my hero. He taught me not just how to play, but how to be a man.
What was life like in your final years?
It was a time of reflection. I spent a lot of time with my family and working with my foundation. I struggled with some health issues, but I always tried to keep a positive spirit and keep smiling for the fans.
What were you working on career-wise before you passed away?
I was focused on my legacy and using my voice to promote education and sports for underprivileged children. I wanted to make sure that the beautiful game continued to be a tool for good in the world.
When and where did you pass away?
I passed away on December 29, 2022 in São Paulo, Brazil.
What happened?
I had been battling colon cancer for some time. My body was tired, but my spirit was at peace. I was surrounded by my family, which is all I could have asked for.
What's a random fact about you most people have never heard?
I love to play the guitar and write songs. I actually recorded several songs and even an album. Music is very much like soccer. It's all about the rhythm.
The king of soccer and a songwriter. What's the craziest rumor ever told about you?
Oh, there were many. Once people said I had died in a car accident when I was still playing. I had to go on the radio to prove I was still alive and kicking.
What was your most unique habit?
Before every match, I would find a quiet corner and just breathe, visualizing the goals I wanted to score. I also always liked to talk to the ball. I treated it like a lady.
What was your favorite food?
A good Brazilian feijoada, a hearty black bean stew with meat. It tastes like home.
Did you have a favorite restaurant?
I loved the small local churrascarias in Santos where the players used to gather. Nothing beats a good Brazilian barbecue with friends.
What was your favorite book?
I enjoyed reading biographies of great leaders. I was always curious about how other people handled the weight of responsibility.
Did you have any known rivalries?
On the pitch, everyone wanted to beat Pelé, but I always had a deep respect for players like Eusebio and Bobby Charlton. The media liked to talk about a rivalry with Maradona, but we were friends who shared a love for the ball.
Tell us a story nobody talks about.
When I first went to try out for Santos, I was so skinny that the coaches weren't sure I could survive a tackle. I had to eat a lot of extra meals just to look like a soccer player. I was just a thin little boy with a big dream.
What's your funniest behind-the-scenes moment?
When we were filming the movie Escape to Victory, I had to do a bicycle kick. The director wanted me to do it over and over again to get the right angle. After about 10 times, I told him, even the king has only so many bicycle kicks in him for one day.
Did you ever prank someone?
I loved to hide my teammates' boots before practice. Watching them run around looking for their shoes while I pretended to be innocent was always a good laugh.
What was the most outlandish purchase you made?
I wasn't a very flashy person, but I did love a nice car. I remember getting a beautiful Mercedes-Benz after my first World Cup success. That felt like a very big deal for a boy who used to shine shoes.
What advice would you give people chasing success?
Success is no accident. It is hard work, perseverance, learning, studying, sacrifice, and most of all, love of what you are doing or learning to do. And always remember, stay humble.
Pelé, this has been an absolute honour. Do you have any closing remarks about the interview or the stories you shared that you would like to share with the listeners before we sign off?
Just this, love is the most important thing. Love your family, love your neighbor, and love the game of life. Thank you, Calvin, for allowing me to share my stories again. It has been a beautiful time.
Thank you so much for being here, Pelé. We've just spent time with a man who came from nothing to conquer the world with a ball and a smile. From naming himself after Edison to stopping a war, Pelé truly was and is the king. And that wraps up another conversation from Beyond the Grave. Thanks for joining us on the Headstones and Microphones podcast. Remember, legends may die, but their stories never do. Please help spread the word by sharing and following the pod.